Everybody at some point or another has had a situation where they need the answer to something or they need help with something, but search engines just haven't yielded or wielded, I can't remember which one it is, the desired results, especially search engines now that seem to be far more preoccupied with advertising rather than actually providing relevant links. But I'm sure we all know by now that people on the internet are as unhelpful as can be. And so, for example, you may post a question or something you're struggling with, and there'll be that one person who's like, "Oh, no, no, I know the answer to this. I can help you with this one." And when they come back to you, all they've done is done the same search engine search that you did 5 minutes ago. And it's like, I appreciate the help, but you haven't really helped. In fact, you've kind of implied that I'm too stupid to have figured out to do a search first. And then you get the ones that are from the same category, but they're a little bit further along the scale of cuntiness, who will just flat out start laying into you for not knowing how to do a Google search. And then you get the people that blatantly know the answer to the question you're asking, but they've just got to keep the answer back. Sort of like the kid at school that would bring in the really expensive cool new toy for the sole purpose of denying the other kids the chance to play with it. Actually, I want to give an example to that one that I'd completely forgotten about until now. So there's this police drama in the UK called The Bill that I'm quite a fan of, and I actually grew up near where they used to film it. Now, this show was very big on realism, and one of their signs of realism was they would use real buildings for the sets. So the police station was always in a real building. And they had three different sets over the course of over 20 years. The first one disappeared between series 2 and 3 with no explanation. The second one, though, they actually changed sets when the show had gone to full time. It was now on all year round, so they had to come up with a way to explain why the station looked different. So they came up with a renovation storyline that took place in the background. But growing up, I always thought that the three police station sets were fictionally supposed to be the same set, the same place, but just represented by different sets. But I always remember a rumour that there was an episode in the 90s by which time they'd moved on to the third set, where the characters talk about taking someone to the old police station, and it just so happened to be the original set that was used. And I was quite curious to find this episode, because I'm quite a nerd for things like that, about my favourite TV shows. I wanted to find out if the original Sun Hill Police Station from series 1 and 2 was fictionally different to the one that we, the audience, became acquainted with. So I went on this Facebook group that's full of super fans, and I asked this, and someone on the group does what someone on the internet always does. They replied with a huge essay that was just basically a copy and paste of all the information that I already knew. They wrote me an essay about why the sets changed, because the set from series 1 and 2, there was industrial action round the corner, and a lot of the strikers thought that the actors were actually police officers because they were in uniform. So they had to move filming, and then the second set, they lost the lease to it, I think, so they had to find somewhere else. All information I already knew, and all I did was ask a very simple question that I thought the fans would know about. Maybe other people wanted that same question answered, they were curious too, or maybe it was new information to them. But of course, people have to be awkward, and we had a little bit of a back and forth, me and this person, and eventually they just said, "No, I actually worked on the show, and I don't remember an episode like that." And I just thought, well, why not just say that from the beginning? It was very obvious the question I was asking. Why do you have to be like the kid at school that gets the shiny new toy just so they can deny everyone else the chance to play with it? Why be so awkward? But that's an example of what I'm talking about. But I want to tell you another story of someone I knew personally, but we had each other on Twitter. Every now and again he'd ask a question, but there was always this one person who used to reply with an answer. Sometimes it was a correct answer, sometimes it wasn't. And you knew when it wasn't because there'd be a bunch of people in their replies correcting them in the most smug way possible. Now, this person had no profile pic and one of those really bullshit names like Keith, lots of numbers on the end, that kind of thing. But he did this for years, and I looked at his replies one day, and they were all exclusively replies to my friends' questions. Now, one day, this mate and I were out drinking, and I said to him, "Listen, you know that guy on Twitter, that Keith lots of numbers guy?" And I immediately saw a smirk come over my friend's face, like a knowing smirk, like he knew what I was about to ask. And I said, "Who is he?" And he said, "That's me on another account." And I said, "Well, why are you answering your own questions?" And he said, "Because in this day and age, people would much rather be right and smug about it and tell you that you're wrong than actually helpful." Now, if I ask a straight up question online, I'm going to get hundreds of people line up to tell me to try Google and stop wasting everybody's time. Whereas if I use my sock puppet account to give an incorrect answer, so many people will line up to tell me that I'm wrong or that he's wrong. And in doing so, I'll get the answer. And I just thought that was incredibly genius. Like, I would have loved to have done that in school. Because when I was in school, when I was a teenager, the internet was already becoming a thing. Social media hadn't really taken off. But I used to post on internet forums, and honestly, I could have had my essays written for me by so many people just by playing the idiot and let them be my smug rescuer, my shining knight in shining armor. And I honestly, and that's something I do today actually. I don't, have a sock puppet account, but I will post like my guess as to what an answer might be, just to see how many people line up to tell me how wrong I am. But I definitely think it's indicative of the times we live in that people would much rather be judgmental than helpful. And before I made this video, I had a little bit of a debate with myself whether or not I'm that person. Have I ever done that to someone? And yeah, I will say I've gotten a little bit frustrated when I've answered a question and someone will continue to ask for more details than I have. But on the whole of it, I actually like talking about things that interest me. I like introducing people to things. If someone was to ask me my favourite, or if someone I knew was getting into soaps, British soaps, because I watch a couple of them, or Star Trek or something like that, and they wanted me to explain something to them, I just honestly, I'd love to go into a huge verbal essay about it. It's not even really the joy of helping someone. It's just I love talking about things that I enjoy. And I guess I'm just weird. I guess I'm just sort of wired differently to most people. But I definitely think it's indicative of the times we live in.